Jude 6 and 7. Did angels have sexual desire? Verse 7 seems to refer back to verse 6. Could you explain, please?
Yeah. Want to have an hour Bible study? You're exactly right. It says the angels who did not, this is what it says in Jude 6 and 7. It says the angels who did not keep their proper domain but left their own abode, he is reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day, as Sodom and Gomorrah, so there's a direct corollary, and the cities around them in a similar manner to these, that would be the angels, having given themselves over to sexual immorality and gone after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. You also have this same teaching in 1 Peter chapter 3, and you have it in the Old Testament in Genesis chapter 6. And so there's a passage there where it talks about the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took wives of all whom they chose, and they had children with them, and those children became known as giants, men of renown. And so you have this weird thing that's taken place, and that is what is stated as taking place right before God brings the judgment of the flood. And so it looks like something weird is happening there spiritually, and that angels are leaving their proper domain and leaving their abode and gave themselves over to sexual immorality and went after strange flesh. That's what it looks like happened. Guys come up with reasons to dismiss that whole idea. This is the classic interpretation of Genesis chapter 6, that there was something weird going on where angels cohabited with women, and the result of that cohabitation were children who were giants, and we're literally talking about giants, big men and big women. And it didn't just happen in Genesis 6. It was something that occurred later on, also during the time before Israel went into Canaan. There are a number of nations that God lists in Deuteronomy chapter 2 as nations that exterminated giants in their land. And because of that, God gave those nations protection from the people of Israel, said, I don't want you to do anything to these groups of people. And he specifically talks about the fact that they took out these giants. And so God had a problem with this whole thing during the time of the flood. He also had a problem with this whole thing later on at the time of Canaan. And again, that's the classic interpretation of that. What people have done with that, because they have a problem with that whole idea, is they've come along and said that the sons of God were the godly line of Seth, and the daughters of men were the ungodly line of Cain. And I've seen people who married non-Christians, and I've never seen them have giant babies. So,
okay, two things.
Have an issue with that.
You recently did a study where you did a very thorough exegy of this issue. Do you remember what book you were teaching? And it's been a couple months or
It would be 1 Peter 3.
1 Peter 3, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So if you guys want a very thorough study, he gave an excellent message, one of the best I've seen on 1 Peter chapter 3 on this issue, because there's a lot of things in Scripture that this all kind of goes together like a puzzle. So if you're interested, check that out. Secondly, for guys that hold the Sethite view, okay, and not the angel view, they say Genesis 6, all that stuff. When they get to Jude, and Jude says this that alludes to angels and sexuality, what do they interpret this passage as? How do they get?
Well, they would just try to minimize the connection between the two.
So would they basically say that they would say that they would dodge it as far as angels and sexuality?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they would dodge. Most of the guys that I've seen deal with that just dodge it.